Oh, you know what we've done? Camera.
Hello everybody. Here we are again. It is Thursday and it sounds a bit like Crackerjack, doesn't it? You probably don't know what that means.
They won't know Crackerjack. We're old.
It's 2:30. It's Thursday and it's live questions and answers with the infant feeding team at the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford. And here we are on level 5 this week in one of the side rooms. So this session, I'm Naomi, this is Alex, we're part of the infant feeding team. There's 5 of us in total. And we work 7 days a week, but not at night. Generally we just work during the days, quite a long time during the days, and we're hopefully around and about to answer your calls every day. We see generally in our job, we generally see mums and babies that are having problems. So we hope we don't see you. We hope we don't meet you
in the nicest possible way,
because we don't feel that we want to see you, because it means that you're not having problems.
Yeah.
So if you're experiencing things going on in your feeding or your supply, then that's where we get involved generally. Or if you're on medication or you've got a medical condition that needs a bit more support, then we would be involved. But if you're just normal breastfeeding and you're a little bit sore, we probably wouldn't get involved with you at that point. You would see more local support to you and use your local services, your midwife, your health visitor, Oxfordshire Breastfeeding Support, or La Leche League, just local support that you can get close to you. So on the wards we probably wouldn't see you unless you've got a problem and the midwives feel that there's something else going on, and they will run it by us and we'll decide if we need to support you further. So you might be very familiar with us, but it doesn't mean that you probably need to see us necessarily unless we feel it's important.
I think see it as a good thing if you don't see us.
Yes,
that means things hopefully are going well.
Exactly. So this is a questions and answers session for about an hour, and we would love to hear your questions on anything to do with infant feeding. So if you've got questions about your induction or your scan, or about your baby's movements, for instance, or labour, then please direct your questions to another forum. So there are Ask Your Midwife sessions as well on these sessions during each week, and community midwives and in the MLUs, the midwife-led units, are also running the sessions, and they are the ones that are most up to date with things to do with pregnancy. We are midwives, but we work in infant feeding, so we're probably not the first to know about the changes in your care if it's in a pregnancy-related question.
And actually, you'll get a much better, holistic response if you go directly to your own midwife. Now, I'm just going to see if I can put some more lights on, because I can see that the screen is pulsating because it means it's got lack of light.
It's a very dark, dull day. So if you have any questions for us, please do fire them at us, or any comments, anything like that. We love to hear from you. So this week there's lots going on, and it's getting to be a very, very busy time in everyone's calendar, and everybody's getting very worried about managing Christmas and all of the things, and being with family, and having a baby is a big thing in your life, huge big thing in your life, particularly if you've not had a baby in your life before. It's quite a big change in your whole the way that you live. And so it comes with a lot of anxieties, and I think running up to Christmas will increase those anxieties, the stress of families, the stress of not seeing families, not being able to have support from your own families because you're not in a bubble with them, say, or they live too far away, they're in another country. It's really difficult for you to get the support physically and mentally from your family. And lots of people want their mums with them, and it's often not happening. So there is a much higher level of anxiety at the moment, but generally I think as a new mum you tend to be very anxious. You tend to have many more worries about just everything, and it's very heightened by your tiredness and the imminent changes that are going on. You've become a different person. You've stepped into another place, and you were a very organised person in your workplace. Perhaps you had lots of control over lots of things in your life, and then suddenly you've got this little baby that has come into your world that has nothing predictable about it whatsoever.
They are totally in control.
totally in control, and they totally drive what happens to them, and ask, you know, for things all of the time, 24 hours a day, mostly at night when it's dark. And then during the day, they're, you know, when people come around, they say, oh, how wonderful is this? You know, your baby's so good. So you have a lot of stuff going on, and you have a lot of time without sleep. And that even increases your anxiety levels even more. And I think that, I think you worry about lots and lots of things. And I think that with the advent of lots of access to information, you use that as a way of finding out about how to manage your life. I think a lot of people spend a lot of time looking up how to do things and where to get stuff and shopping.
Don't we all?
Exactly. And it's like a 24-hour availability for everybody. And with babies, there isn't always an answer.
No.
You know, they are their own little person, and so it gets even more, creates more anxiety because you can't find the answer you want straight away. And sometimes it's because there isn't one, and you just have to be a mum and cuddle your baby, and lots of skin to skin, and your baby just needs feeding. It might be bored, but you don't know that. You're looking for something. Why is my baby crying? And that creates even more anxieties. And when you can't have your family close to you, and you can't also meet other parents because of the situation we're in, you're not actually meeting up in toddler groups, in baby groups, you're not meeting other mothers that have got babies of similar age to you to say, oh yeah, my baby does that too, it's fine, and I did this and I did that. You know, you're not getting the reassurance from peer group.
That mother-to-mother support is so important.
Totally, and it's absent at the moment in your lives, and it's very, very isolating because you're not able to meet mothers, you're not able to meet them and go out because you don't know them to meet them and go out. So it makes the whole role of motherhood in a very different place in this time, and it's been a whole, you know, it's going to be a whole year almost where we've had this complete separation from society as people, and that has had a massive impact on, you know, just in our area there's 8,000 deliveries a year in Oxfordshire. That's 8,000 mums that have, you know, not necessarily that many, but don't have that contact with newly delivered other mums where you can actually work with each other and support each other and have cake and cups of tea and you know, just sob on each other, which is what mums do.
I know that OBS and Leche are doing their bit to try and support that, so if you do feel you need that added support of other people, then it's really worthwhile contacting them or going and have a look at their websites, because they are doing online groups. And I know online's not the same as being with someone, but you will meet other mums, and you might click with one or two, and actually that's really all you need. You just need somebody else who's going through something similar to you or went through it recently, just to reassure you that much of what you know as new mums go through is totally normal. And I think that's where the Abingdon Baby Cafe and Baby Cafe as a whole organisation and OBS have come from, that mother-to-mother support. So it is available online, and make the most of it. We've got some questions coming through now.
So don't struggle, and you know, if you're feeling like that, it probably means that somebody else that you're chatting to on WhatsApp that you don't know very well is feeling like that.
Absolutely.
Ask them to meet you for a cup of, you know, bring a flask of tea and a piece of cake, and just go and sit on a bench with them, you know, and say hi.
Go for a walk while you're allowed to, and maybe not on Friday, so it's going to snow. So
well, you might like that.
Wrap your baby up nice and warm. Pop them in a sling. Shall we have a look at some of our questions? So Roop has come through and said, hello to both of you, and thank you to Naomi for visiting us in the JR. My baby is 9 days and we're exclusively breastfed.
Oh, it's working well. I'm so pleased you had so much. It's fabulous. Nicola
has said, hello, how much weight should a newborn gain in the first 2 weeks? That's quite a good one for us. No, we thought we might talk about weight gain and things. Actually, we expect a baby by the end of sort of 10 days to 2 weeks to be back at its birth weight. So it's really normal for a baby to lose weight in the first 5 days. We don't want them to lose too much weight. Up to 10% is considered fairly normal. More than 10%, we're really definitely putting feeding plans in place and making sure the baby's getting more food than they've been getting up till then. And in that period of time, from day 5 to day 10, coming up for the 2 week mark, we would expect a baby to be back at its birth weight. And thereafter, we want babies to be gaining somewhere between 20 and 35 grams on a daily basis. So a baby that is, a baby girl may gain slightly lower end of that spectrum, and a baby boy slightly higher of that spectrum. So somewhere between 20 and 35 grams on a daily basis, with girls minimum 20 grams a day, and boys preferably nearer the 30 grams a day. So yes, back at birth weight by 2 weeks, please. 10 days to 2 weeks is what we're aiming for. So I hope that answers that, Nicola.
I mean, you might find that, you know, babies, we call it, when they don't gain their birth weight, and when they lose weight after day 5, we call it faltering growth.
Yeah.
So the babies are faltering, and that might be a word that some of you are familiar with, or you might have been under our care and your baby might have been slow to gain weight. And you know, the reason is that your baby is not gaining the weight that we're expecting it to gain, and there's lots of reasons why babies don't do that. But I think a lot of it is being switched on to what your baby's doing and understanding that your baby needs enough food, and getting help. I think that's the other thing, and we'll probably have this theme all the way through today, and we'll come backwards and forwards to it depending on the questions. But it's about recognising that your baby's not quite gaining enough and being switched on that you have to feed it and you have to give it more. And that's the really important thing, that if your baby isn't gaining enough, it's because it's not getting enough food. Mostly. Some babies, they have got absorption issues, or they've got medical problems. They may have got cardiac problems or something like that. Babies that aren't very well tend to lose weight because they use all their energy keeping well rather than getting fatter. But mostly, and it is nearly all babies, aren't gaining weight because they're not getting enough food.
Yeah. And I think we've said it on this before, babies that are breastfed don't get constipated. So if your baby's not pooing, that's a sign your baby's not getting enough food. And we would expect a baby to be pooing twice a day from day 4 onwards. Yellow poos, we've said it on this many times before, a £2 coin sized yellow poo at least. More than that's fantastic, but no less than that. Every single day until 6 weeks, and 6 heavy wet nappies from day 6 onwards. So that's a really good indicator. If your baby's not doing that, then there's quite a likely chance your baby's not gaining quite enough weight.
You need to call us. You need to call your midwife. You need to call your health visitors. You know, don't think, oh, he hasn't pooed today, it's okay. That's up to about 6 weeks. After then, they don't poo quite so frequently sometimes. Usually they do, and they poo as much or more, but sometimes they don't, and so we don't concern so much if everything else is okay. But in the first 6 weeks, they should be pooing every day. Literally every day. And
that's one of the myths that gets out there, and it's really ensconced in our culture in the UK, that breastfed babies don't poo so frequently. That's totally correct, and I'm really sorry about the stuff going on outside. That's totally correct from 6 weeks onwards. But prior to 6 weeks, your baby should be pooing every single day. Every day.
And you know, that's up to you to call someone. Nobody's going to come and find you if they, you know, you've got to go and talk to somebody. So you've got to be switched on as parents and realise that that's what it means. And if your baby's not glugging or not feeding as much, and it's all the nappies suddenly tail off, you've got to contact somebody and talk to them and have a conversation. Because it takes so much less time if you do it quickly to turn it around than if you leave it for 2 weeks and then you have an appointment with somebody 2 weeks later and you find that they've lost, you know, quite a lot of weight, or they haven't put any on, and it's so soul destroying. So, you know, if you're topping your baby up, give enough. If that's what you've been told to do, give enough. Or if you've got, you know, but make sure that your attachment is really good, that you've got a really good positioning, and that somebody's helping you with your baby, you know, to fix your baby onto the breast, to help you attach your baby onto the breast properly, because a millimetre can make a difference between ½ a pound a week and losing weight. And it's such a tiny space on a breastfeed where it's millimetres to get the positioning right to make a difference. It really, really does make a difference if you get that deeper latch. So we do talk about that a lot as well, don't we? Shallow latching and getting more of a mouthful. And
it's remembering that if feeding is painful and it's not going well for you, then the likelihood is your baby's not getting enough food. So it's, you know, mums can be so brave and soldier on with sore nipples and think, well, it's all right, I'll do it for my baby, I'll carry on. But actually the likelihood is your baby's not getting the food that they need. So don't soldier on, get the help that you need as soon as possible. And I know it's difficult at the moment, but there's been limited services, and hopefully that's improving. The health visitors have all been put back in place, but they've got a lot of catch up to do. But do ask for that help, do push and say, no, my baby needs to be weighed if there's any concerns. So do keep asking. Should we carry on for some more questions? Rupa's come back and said her baby boy feeds for 20 to 25 minutes on one breast and then for about 10 to 15 on the other, but still after 10 to 25 minutes he shows the signs of hunger and settles down after that. Is it normal? I think that goes back to your third breast thing, doesn't it?
Yeah,
you were talking about third breast.
Yeah. You've got 3 or 4.
Yes, I remember my brother being absolutely horrified when I said that his wife could offer the third breast. So just because a baby's fed on one side and then on the other, there's absolutely no reason why the baby can't go back to the first side that you started on, and a baby will always find milk. As long as they're on well, a baby will get milk. And how do you normally describe it? How do you normally describe it? Why is the breast never empty? What's your...
Oh, it's like a kidney.
Yeah, exactly.
It keeps filling, always. It's always filling. Drip, drip, drip. So as soon as you stop feeding on one breast, it starts to refill while the other one is being used. And I think that, do things like compression. So with your hand on your firmly, as far back to your chest wall as you can go. When your baby's suckling, you squeeze and hold. And then when they stop suckling, you release. And that just pushes a little bit more into their mouth, so it gives them a little bit more from deep within the breast. But it also stimulates letdown. So you might find as you're doing that, as you're going on in your breastfeeding time, so not necessarily in the first week or 2, but certainly after that, you suddenly see your baby glugging again and waking up, and you hear more swallowing, and they glug, 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 glug again, and then they start to go sleepy again, and you're doing compressions to make them get more food. So it might be worth trying some compression, Rupa, with your feeding on the second breast, just to see if that just gives a little bit more and encourages another letdown. But yeah, do go back to the other side and offer some more. And is your baby coming off spontaneously and going on the other breast, or are you stopping on one side, taking him off and putting him on the other? Let them finish on one breast, no more than about 45 minutes on one side, and then offer the other side. But do try compressions as well, because that is a really good piece of tool to in your toolbox to increase the volume that your baby takes. So it might just wake them up and make them feed a bit more effectively. Try it and see, report back.
So Sarah's written us a message saying, apologies in advance, I have a couple of questions, here goes. No apologies needed, Sarah, that we need the questions. We'd be sitting here otherwise trying to fill the time. So she's at the end of recovering from a very bad bout of mastitis, last day of antibiotics today, and thank you for your support while I was in the hospital, you poor love, it was rubbish. How do I get baby to take the second breast in the same feed? I use the method of letting her feed until she naturally unlatches, which is great. By this stage she tends to have emptied the breast and then falls asleep. When I offer the second breast, even after a nappy change, she rarely takes it. We obviously got enough on that first side for her.
Well done.
Is it okay that she only takes one breast at each feed? I alternate each feed. Also, when she only drinks from one breast, should I pump the other one slightly, or only if it's engorged? I want to avoid creating oversupply. And should we deal with that question first, because there's another one after that then. So I think, I don't know about you, but I think, if she's not showing any signs of wanting to go on the other side, keep the side that she hasn't fed from comfortable. So remove enough to make that breast comfortable, because it may be that you've got such a good supply on the side that she's feeding that she doesn't need any more than that. But what we don't want is you to have recurrence of mastitis, so you need to be removing enough milk in the breast. And when I talk to mums about this, I normally say take off enough that you sit there and go, oh, that's better. But
might only be 10 mils.
It may be. It may not be much, but it's enough for you to just go, oh, that feels better, rather than taking off everything you can take. Because if you take everything you can get off, you're going to perpetuate that amount of milk. So just enough to make yourself comfortable. You might have to do it a couple of times between that feed and the next time when she's going to feed, and that isn't a problem. But it's keeping that breast comfortable, reducing the risk of getting mastitis, and only taking off is the minimum that you need to take off.
You might find by doing that it damps down a little bit, and you eventually get more comfortable, because your body is recognising what your baby's needs are. And the other thing to say is your baby meeting its milestones, and is it gaining enough weight, is it pooing and peeing appropriately? And if all of those things are in place, then one side is absolutely fine.
Yeah, and I know we always say on this, and we always say that when we meet mothers, that actually we should be thinking of every breastfeed as both breasts offered, and thinking about the second breast as the pudding, it's always nice to be offered. But sometimes they don't want it, and some babies do fine just on one. But we went so one way that everybody was only offering one breast, and women were going around totally lopsided. And actually, for some, one breast is not enough for their baby. So, and some babies definitely do need two. So we suggest that you do offer two. But if your baby really doesn't want it, don't worry about it.
And it might be a mix of both. You know, sometimes you might feed both sides, and sometimes you only get one side. You know, particularly at night, often they're much more settled and they don't feed as long. So it might be that you feed one side at night, but during the day you need to feed both sides, and that's exactly normal for your baby.
And if you have a period of cluster feeding, which many mothers face in the evenings, then the baby's going to be left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right anyway. So, and then, you know, first thing in the morning when you've got, most women have the most milk, maybe one side's all they need at that point. But it's keeping your breast comfortable to try and stop you getting mastitis again, Sarah. So at night, both breasts really engorged. Here we go. 2.5 to 4 hours in between feeds. What should I do? Back to just removing enough to make yourself comfortable. Your baby's now 4 weeks old, tends to wake every 3.5 to 4 hours at night to feed. Feeds every 1.5 to 2 hours during the day. When she does feed on the breast, she does a good job of draining it. Well done. Should I wake myself up to pump a small amount after 2 hours to a comfortable level, not drain the breast? Well done, you took that on board. Or will the engorgement pass on its own so I can stay asleep for the fall? I think if you get woken up by it, do something about it. I don't know what you think about that. I think,
just see how it goes. I think, you know, just be careful again, going back to what we've already said, don't overstimulate. Just take it off till you're comfy.
Which is what she said,
So, you know, if you've got a hacker or something, you could just take a little bit off with a hacker, or hand express a little bit off, or you know, use your pump if that's what you like. But you know, if your baby's stirring, you know, get them to feed. It's responsive feeding. You know, when your baby's hungry, they wake you. When you're full, you wake your baby a bit. You know, but you don't want to be feeding all night, obviously. But if you're really full, then you know, get your baby to have a little feed. See if you'll do a little dream feed or something to make you more comfy. I just think cocks and box with that one, and what will happen is your attachment
really good? What do you mean by cocks and box?
We'll do a little bit of this and a little bit of
that.
that.
Okay, fine.
You know what I mean, don't you?
No, I didn't. I've not heard that before.
You know, and the thing is, you know, just make sure that your attachment is really good, so that you've got a really deep latch, and go back to your basic positioning and attachment, because it could be that you're overstimulating because he's on, you know, your baby's on the end a little bit, she's on the end a little bit. So go back to revisit your attachment and just really look to see if there's a really deep mouthful, because sometimes overstimulation is because they're on a shallow latch and they're just, you know, asking for supply to be made all the time.
And she was saying that the baby does a really good job. I mean, the thing is that they'll often do that most of the day, and then sometimes they don't, and that can be a problem. But keep going. Right, we're carrying on, Sarah, with the theme of Sarah. In the last few days, baby's bringing back up lots of milk. Not every feed, just once or twice a day. Are there certain positions to avoid with her to reduce this from happening? Some babies are just more sicky than others, and you know, maybe she's just getting a little bit more.
Sounds like she's been greedy.
A little bit more than she actually needs. And remember that the babies have a very immature sphincter valve at the top of their stomachs, which is why babies are sick. You know, it's really normal for babies to be sick. But as long as it's not all the feeds every day, sorry, I've got something in my eye, then that's fine. You know, just it is very normal for babies to be a little bit sick. I felt like I had a hair. Anyway, carrying on. During some feeds, I have a pinching feeling at the top of the nipple. Top of nipple looks normal shape when the baby comes off. Is there anything additional I can do? I apply pressure at the shoulder blades. Oh, well done you. And also in certain positions. Hang on. Certain positions create a C shape with the boob to help her latch well.
So it may be that you need to revisit your attachment, and that's why you're feeling a bit full. So it sounds that you could possibly improve your positioning. Make sure that you line your baby up really well. I've got pictures here.
So Sarah's saying that she's using the laid back position, and she finds her head tips to one side.
For the positions here.
I'm going on to the next question while Naomi's just looking for that, because you've asked about engorgement at 4 weeks. We anticipate that most women's milk supply matches their needs at about 6 to 8 weeks actually, so it's quite common up to 6 to 8 weeks that women will still be getting a bit of engorgement. So after that the supply seems to settle down and just meet the baby's needs, and not And some women will find that in that period of time they're thinking that actually they've got less milk because they don't get that full feeding so often, and the breast feels softer, but actually that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So don't feel disheartened. Right, Naomi's got her pictures.
So we're just lining the baby up here. So can you see this? The way that the baby is positioned at the breast, it comes really much further under than you think. So you feel like you're not going to make it. But actually, with that support that you're giving your breast, make sure that the head's free, and you're taking your baby up onto the breast from the shoulders, as you've said, and the chin should hit the breast first. But see how far away the nose is from that nipple. You shouldn't be nose diving, and make sure that that baby's coming from well underneath the breast, so it can get a really big mouthful here, and that they get the breast in the mouth rather than on the end of the nipple here. And then looking at the next picture, you see that is you're taking that breast and it's skimming. You can do that, can't you, Alex? With the skimming.
Yeah.
It's skimming just underneath the gum ridge. Yeah. So as you can see what Alex is doing.
So that's the baby's mouth, upper lip, lower lip. The baby's going to absolutely just skim the nipple. So they've started nose opposite nipple, then the head tips back, they go upper lip to nipple, and the baby then takes the nipple to the back of the mouth into the soft palate where they do no damage.
And that's your line up before you start. So your baby looks like it's not going to go anywhere near the breast, and you think that you should line it up like a bottle where the breast is in the middle of the baby's mouth when you start. But if you do that, you'll get that pinchy feeling where the nipple goes onto the tongue.
That. And if you think about the tongue being here, and this is the hard palate, if the nipple goes into the middle of the mouth, the baby does this. And that's why people get really sore.
They get pinched.
If the nipple goes in right at the top, it goes right to the back of the mouth where the soft palate is, and the baby does that. And the areola and breast can cope with that, whilst the nipple cannot. So the nipple is sitting against a lovely soft cushion.
And if you're feeding and you've got lots and lots of milk and you're not quite deep enough, your baby will splutter and cough because the milk's not going straight down the back of the throat because it's not far enough back. And the milk pools in the mouth a little bit and they just can't suck, swallow, breathe as well. So they splutter and cough and come off, finding it really hard. And that almost creates more problems because your baby's coming on and off all the time, and that creates an oversupply in itself. So poor attachment, as in not quite far enough on, coming on and off because they can't cope with the flow, and not feeding in the right way will create this cycle of oversupply and spluttering and choking and not being happy at the breast and coming on and off. So just by tweaking that and doing what we've shown, you might find that things settle down, but it'll take a few days. It doesn't happen with the next feed. It takes a few days to change anything in breastfeeding. Lower supply and might make supply. It takes at least 48 hours to see change, which is why people get really down about it, because they don't see it straight away. They don't, people expect to see that there's more milk in their breast after the next feed, and it's 48 hours minimum.
Yeah, I need it.
At least 48 hours, if
Putting
not
that
4
order
days.
in for a head.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helped with the pinching. So it's always working on that positioning attachment. And often we find as babies get older, mums need to remember to bring them further around. I know you're doing a baby in an upright position, but actually maybe you need to, if you're sort of doing laid back and your baby's across your leg, Sarah, you might need to drop your leg further to make sure that the baby's still coming up to the breast.
Yeah, because she's good size, wasn't she? So, you've got to just move around with her, but make sure her face is in the same place, her mouth is in the same place.
Sarah wants to know how she stops the baby's head from falling to one side. We actually find that very often that's what babies do when they're feeding in the upright position, and as long as that's not making you uncomfortable, that isn't a problem. The other way of doing it is to pop your arm down. I don't know if you can show. So in an upright position.
Like this.
So, yeah.
I mean, the other thing you can do is when you go on in that position is you can lean back a little bit like that. I don't know if you can see. So you're leaning backwards in the chair afterwards, and then you can just hold her like that. And then you're not holding your baby at all. They're lying on you, and you put a pillow behind you and your lower back on the chair or wherever you are. Just, roll your coat up if you're outside. And the gravity will keep her on as well, so she'll be on a deeper latch. So you put her on in the usual way, if that's the way that you want to feed her, but then once she's on, you can move your arm round so that this arm is supporting her, and then you can lean back a little bit and she'll just fall onto you, and that then takes the pressure off her body on your arms, and she will lean more forward, and she'll be able to breathe. If she's on the breast correctly, she'll be able to breathe. But the other thing is she can take herself off. Her arms will be up and she can lift herself up and come off the breast herself if she needs to. So it's quite a nice position for them, and it supports your back and shoulders as well if you're breastfeeding and getting round shouldered and hunched like this, which is what a lot of mums are.
Carrying on with your questions. You're saying that breast and nipples have been a bit sensitive sometimes, and that you're being a bit engorged, and whether it's okay to wear a baby carrier, and you've got the Ergo 360. Ergo Baby 360. I think as long as it's not occluding your breast, it's not putting pressure in any particular place on your breast, which increases the risk of you getting, blocked ducts or leading to mastitis. As long as then there's no particular pressure on the breast in any particular area, then that should be fine. And being just aware if you find that it's getting a bit uncomfortable, that maybe if it's pushing in any place in particular. And remember, your breast tissue starts right up here and goes right into under your armpit. Thinking about where that carrier is, and that should be fine. And it's the same with any tight fitting bra or anything. Some women do actually develop mastitis just from wearing a tight fitting bra, or going and doing sort of a piece of sport, and the bra not being particularly well fitting. So things like that can happen. So just be aware of what you're doing with that, what that sling feels like for you.
Yeah, some women are really sensitive to changes in their breasts, and if you just change your bra size or sleep too heavily for an hour extra one night, it can trigger mastitis, when with no other problems, and then suddenly you just feel really lousy. And that's all it is that you've had an hour extra sleep, or you've just held your breast in a slightly different way, or you've gone to an underwired bra for any reason, and that can be enough to trigger it. It's really frustrating. It's it's not about your positioning and attachment sometimes, it's just that you've clogged up a duct by lying really heavily on one side overnight.
So Sarah's final question, and it's been a fabulous run of questions since it's enabled us to cover so many different topics. It's been really good. So linked to the first one about feeding from one breast only, you've asked whether you wait for her to naturally unlatch from the breast instead of breaking the latch up yourself and taking her off. And you're asking, is this the right technique, or should I force an unlatch after, say, 10 minutes on the first and off for the second? No, we always let a baby finish the breast they're on. A baby should come off on their own, spontaneously. Anywhere between 5 and 40 minutes is what we're looking for on one side. And then if they want to, you offer the other. She's telling you then that she or he's, that they've had what they want from that breast. We don't take the baby off because we've talked about the profile of a feed on these sessions before, and when a baby initially goes on, they get that more waterier part from the beginning of the feed that's full of really important water-soluble vitamins.
That's
lots, absolutely brilliant. Loads of sugar for that brain development. And as the feed progresses, and their ability to really milk the breast because of the way they're on, they get the higher fat milk as the feed progresses. If you take your baby off, the risk is that they've not got the high fat milk they needed. And what they need to be doing, Name's going to find a picture to just demonstrate what I mean, is that what you'll find is babies go on and they do chomp, chomp, chomp to get the let down, then they go into those big deep sucks with swallows, big deep sucks with swallows and pauses, big deep sucks with swallows and pauses. And then as the feed progresses, they do little flutters and very long pauses, little flutters and very long pauses. This is what we use,
and we use it to train the staff a lot. But it's like a whale. So if you imagine that it's very tiny, I'm sorry because it's little pocket cards, but this is where the baby starts with the feed, and the suckle pattern is underneath here. So you can see the baby does the flutter sucking to get the let down. Then they get all this drink which is dispersed with fat, and the purple dots are the fat. And as the feed goes on and the suckling pattern changes, they go down to get the more fatty. Now if you were to take there's no time and there's no volume. So if you look at this, so people that like graphs will enjoy this, but people that haven't got a clue what it is have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'll try and explain. So if your baby was normally feeding for 40 minutes, and you decide after 10 minutes that that's what you want to do, 10 minutes each side, your baby may only get to here. And so your baby won't get all of that. Whereas a baby that takes 40 minutes will go through the whole pattern and get that, or a baby that takes 5 minutes will go through that pattern and get the same amount. So if you try and feed a baby for 40 minutes when it only needs a 5-minute feed and gets all of that, your baby will cry and say, I don't want it. I don't need that. I've had everything I want. Whereas a baby that you take off after 10 minutes won't get that, and they'll miss out on the fatty bits. And the pattern, you see, they won't have been able to do. So this just sort of demonstrates the fact that you don't need time and you don't need volume. Your baby will tell you, and they will be guided by the volume in your breast and the flow of your breast. So milk volumes in breasts change from woman to woman. Some only have a small capacity and some have a large capacity. So a baby that has a mum with a large capacity will feed less often, possibly, than a mum who has got a small capacity. You can't do anything about that. That's who you are. And so your baby may feed 12 times in 24 hours, not 8. So, and sometimes 6 times if they get all of that in, in the time that they need. But what you need to do is allow your baby to do all of that in order to get the food. Now that might be 5 minutes or it might be 40 minutes, and it might be one side only, or it might be that on both breasts. All of those are normal for a baby, for your baby, if that's what they do, and they're doing all the things they should and they're gaining weight. So if you're not clear about that, just have a think about it, but ask a question about it, because that sort of demonstrates what we expect your baby to do on every feed. And there's no time limit on that, well, up to 40-45 minutes. And most babies will achieve that and gain plenty of weight.
And come off on their own.
And come off on their own,
yeah,
indeed.
Come off
they
on
will
their
go
own.
through that suck pattern.
Is it in that one? No.
No.
We have a picture of a baby. Oh, we do. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
That's a baby that's come off on its own. That's what they'll often look like. They'll look like they're asleep, and mums get worried and they think, oh, the baby's asleep, I'm going to take them off. No, because often they're still feeding. And if you pop a little bit of pressure on their shoulders, just bring your hand into their shoulders again, it's like they're on switch, then actually they'll carry on and they'll do a bit more sucking, and then hopefully they'll come off. And if you want to encourage them, you could be trying, as we mentioned earlier, some compressions towards the end of the feed if you're trying to get the baby to come off. So for you, Sarah, I think just let your baby finish the first breast and then see what happens after that, and then think about keeping that second breast comfortable so that it reduces the risk of you getting mastitis again. But, hopefully, thanks again for all those questions. They were great.
Really
we covered
good.
so much.
Yeah, we have.
Fantastic. Ruth has come back to us again, and she said sometimes he sleeps more than 3 hours and doesn't wake up for a feed, but when I wake him up he shows signs of hunger and feeds very well. Is this okay? That's what we call a dream feed. That's what we were talking about earlier. So yes, it's perfectly fine, isn't it?
As long as he's gaining weight and peeing and pooing in the right way, and he's happy and gets about 8 feeds in 24 hours, so at some point he'll feed too early if he's had a longer sleep. And normally if you have a baby that sleeps for 5 hours, they'll have a feed and then they'll have another feed a couple of hours later, and then maybe another one a couple of hours after that, so they chase it. Mm. If they've had a long time, they have to catch up, and as long as he gets all of those 8 feeds in 24 hours and he's doing everything he should be doing, that's perfect. But if he's not, it's not, and you need to probably wake him a bit more frequently. But if he's doing everything else okay, don't worry about it. Just one. If you did 5 hours every time, he would only get a few feeds in 24 hours. So you've got to count the number of feeds he's had, and if he's gaining his expected weight and peeing and pooing.
Right, Eric has come through. Hello, my son is 3 weeks old. He was 100% tongue-tied and it was cut at day 10. Since then his feeding's improved, but he still feeds little and often, normally 5 to 10 minutes, and won't settle for long afterwards. I'm worried whether he's getting enough milk. My midwife said to put him back on the same side to get the fatty milk. When would you know to offer the other side? I think we've just covered that. So you're going to watch for your baby to come off on their own. And when they come off on their own, then offer the second side. That would be what you're doing. And if they come off that one again and they're still looking for more, offer the first side again and see how you get on. And the way that you know that your baby's getting enough food is what we were talking about earlier. Is your baby having minimum two yellow poos, £2 coin size per day, and 6 heavy wet nappies? If they're doing that, the likelihood is that they are gaining appropriately. And if you're concerned, then try and contact your health visitors if you've been discharged from the midwives to get your baby weighed and see what's happening there.
Just remember, if your baby's had his tongue tie cut, it takes a little while, 2 to 4 weeks, for them to sort themselves out with the tongue tie. The muscles that they had when they had their tied at the tongue, they stop using those muscles, and they have to learn to use new muscles that are with the good tongue function. And so that transition between using the old muscles to the new ones takes a little bit of time, so they often get very tired. It's a bit like you starting to run. If you do Couch to 5, if anybody's done Couch to 5, you'll know that eventually you build it up and you can start to manage to run further and further. And this is the same with using any muscle. It's got to be built up, so they've got to get used to using that muscle again, and start to use the new muscles, and that takes a little while, because it's a muscle. It takes a little while to build up, and have the ability to keep going. So, you know, it might only be 5 minutes and then they're exhausted with the tongue function. And then as you start feeding, and we say many times a day that good feeding is good physio.
Yeah.
So the better you're feeding, the better the physio for the tongue, and the better the tongue function will be. And eventually they will be able to feed for a little bit longer, they'll be able to transfer milk a little bit more effectively, and they will then cope with normal feeding, and you'll see that things start to settle down. But it's 2 to 4 weeks, you know, it's not the next day. You might have less discomfort, but the tongue function has to improve as well, and that takes time. Good flow, so lots of milk in your breast, and hopefully you protected your milk supply to give them that flow. The better the flow, the better the physio, because they're using their tongue more effectively. And if your positioning is good, so your baby is absolutely tip-top on the breast properly, that function is even better, and the physio is even better.
So letting your baby,
if you need to.
yeah, letting your baby finish, Erica. Let the baby finish the side. So.
Yeah.
Nicholas said, should you wake a baby in the night for a feed if it's been more than 4 hours?
That goes back to a lot of things we said already. So everyone's asking the most sensible questions today, aren't they? And we are sort of dealing with them. But if your baby is not gaining weight and it's not peeing and pooing appropriately, and it's sleepy all the time, then you probably do need to be waking your baby. But if your baby is feeding the rest of the time and is maintaining all of its milestones, then 1 long sleep probably is okay, but probably not more than 4 or 5 hours. How old's the baby?
I can't remember. I think Nicola did say before, but I can't remember. You
know, it depends on how old your baby is as well. A newborn baby, we wouldn't recommend that happens at all.
Let's see if I can see.
But as long as your baby's feeding 8 times in 24 hours minimum and gaining weight and peeing and pooing correctly, 1 long sleep won't be too bad.
Actually, Nicola doesn't say, but she did ask how much should the baby have gained by 2 weeks. So I'm assuming about 2 weeks then.
Yeah, so it should be up to about birth weight. But if he's not, then you're probably not. We wouldn't recommend that you let him sleep for more than 3 hours. So no more than 3 hours. We say if your baby's not reaching its milestones, no more than 3 hours. So that doesn't mean you do 3 hourly. It means that you don't go more than 3 hours. So if he wakes up after 2, you can do that. If he's doing 5 hours. He's doing 5 hours and not gaining weight, then that's too long for him. He's not ready to do that yet. And he will miss out on a feed in 24 hours if that happens. And that might be enough to make him not quite gain enough weight.
We're going to have to move on. We've got loads more messages coming through. So that was, we've chatted to Erica, we've done Nicola. Kimberly has said, hello, more poo talk with a lovely smiley face. I'm afraid we don't mind. We like it.
We do poo.
My son's 18 weeks and recently had a few dirty nappies that are sandy in texture and hard to wipe off. He's exclusively breastfed, is feeding like normal and not poorly in any way. Is this something to worry about? Thank you.
Are his nappies wet? Are they wet enough?
Very difficult to wipe off.
Is he peeing enough? Because that will tell you if he's a little bit dehydrated. Have you got enough milk? Has anything changed in the volume and number of feeds he has? Have you started your periods?
Yeah.
Have
you started
gone
the
on
pill?
To contraception? Have you had anything change in your life that might happen? Is he picking things up? I mean, has he picked something up and put it in his mouth?
Yeah.
Sometimes they do that without you realising, and that can create some change. Have you got a toddler that's feeding him something? It doesn't sound normal. But,
I fed my brother chocolates when I was a toddler.
Just stuck a Marmite sandwich in there.
Yeah, I know.
But I think that just unpick it a little bit and just see if he's reaching all his milestones. Is he gaining enough weight? Is he happy?
Yeah.
Has he started rubbernecking? When he's feeding, because a lot of babies around about that age start pulling at the breast and turning when they hear a noise, and pulling and turning.
Don't feed so well, do they?
Don't feed so well. They're on off without having a proper feed. And if you've got the telly on, they just, every time somebody says something on the telly, they look at it and then they come back. They're just, around about that time, they're just recognising that there's a world outside of mummy. And it lasts for a little while, and then they go back to saying, oh, I know what that is, it's the telly, I don't need to worry about it.
Sometimes you have to go and sort of feed in a darkened room for a little while, and night feeds are usually better. But with regard to Sandy, I think it's a case of looking at everything else that's going on as well.
Have you changed your diet? Are you having other things in your diet? Have you suddenly started eating more fruits or anything else? Because sometimes that alters the colour of the baby's poo. If you've got lots in some of your foods, it just comes through and changes the colour. it's more likely to be that he's not, you know, he might be a little bit less, getting less volume. And it might be that you just need to put more feeds in, possibly. Has he had his immunisation a couple of weeks ago? I think they have them at 16 weeks, don't they? And it might be that it's something from that.
Could be related
Have
to that.
you had antibiotics? Sometimes that changes your baby's poo. They get a little bit of that through your breast milk, you know, in a safe amount. Lots of different things that could be going on that we don't know about. So if you want to talk a little bit more through it, you can contact your health visitor, or you can ring us and talk to us.
And take pictures. Take pictures of those poos so that we know, you know, so that they or we know what we're looking at, because that's really, really helpful to, you know, we often ask our mums when they phone us up with something concerns is to take a picture of what the nappy looks like so we know. Because it actually does tell us, I know we like talking about poo, but it does tell us an awful lot. You
didn't have a lactose or dairy-free diet and then suddenly have introduced dairy again or anything like that. Sometimes that happens, you know, that it just alters what they have. And obviously it hasn't had any formula, you said you're exclusively feeding. So, yeah, just have a little think and see what else could have happened in your life.
Right, messages are coming back on in. So, right, Sarah's come back to say baby signs are great. Brilliant. A lot of wet and dirty nappies throughout the day. You're doing a fantastic job, Sarah. Keep it going. Charlotte's come to say hello. Charlotte comes and says hello every time we're on, which is lovely. It's so nice to have her. Hiya, ladies. Hope you're keeping safe and well. We are. Thank you, Charlotte. Rita's come on and said, hi, I gave birth last week. Congratulations, Rita. Breastfeeding was very painful at the beginning. He wouldn't open his mouth wide enough. He does open it now, okay now. Still sore, but not as bad as before, especially the left breast. Most of the time when he gets off, it has a lipstick shape, okay? So there's room for improvement there then, Rita.
Always room for improvement.
And I have a small crack in the left nipple. Any advice, please? Well, keep your breasts moist. So think about using some form of cream. Treat them like lips.
Think about this. Go back to this picture. You're probably not quite far enough underneath. Pull your baby a bit further round if you're going across your tummy, and think, you know, is his tummy button near your other nipple? It's around about there that they need to be tucked much further round than you think. So his body is really close to you, so your baby's in line with you, in line with him, so that the whole of the ear, the shoulder, the hips, everything is in the same line. You hold your baby tucked round your rib cage, you see, really close into the contours of your body, and hold the back of the shoulders so that the head can be free, and line the baby's nose up to the nipple so your baby's in that position. Have I got it the right one? So your baby's lined up here, and then when they open their mouth, they're in the right place, and that the chin leads, so the head is free, the chin leads, and they tip their head back, and then they take a big scoopful, and the nipple just skims the top of the gum as we showed you earlier, and they take a big mouthful to the back of their throat, at the top of the back of their throat, the roof of the mouth, so that they don't squash your nipple and make it sore. There's always room for improvement. Pull your baby around a little bit further. It looks like you're not going to get them on. It looks like you're going to miss the nipple completely, but as they gape, and the more you get them in the right place, the wider their gape will be. If they're lined up with their nose, if their mouth is at the nipple, they don't gape, because they're not being given the cues to gape. So moving them round, it means that you're rubbing the top of their nose and top lip down to their lip, and that encourages a gape. And when they lift their head back, they put their tongue out. And if they can't play out those things, they don't do them. If they're not given the opportunity to do that, they won't. If you just put it here, they won't do all of those things and attach. So they'll go on in the middle.
Yeah, that's what we were saying earlier about thinking about whether the baby's going on like this, and that's the upper lip there, my finger. They go on like that, and they do not want to go on like this, okay? Because you will get sore in that position.
And they won't gape.
Your baby's only just a week old, so actually you should be under the midwives, Rita. Give them a shout, tell them it's painful, ask for some support. We've got some absolutely fantastic members of staff out there who will come and give you a hand, have a look at what you're doing, and if they feel they can't help you, they will refer you to us. So have a look and see what's going on.
Okay. Breastfeeding support, they can do a one-to-one with you as well.
Online, you could do an online session with OBS, and it really works. I mean, I have to say, because we've been doing them too when we've needed to, it really, really works. Don't feel that you're not going to get support just because it's online. It's very, very good. We just need you and your baby and someone to hold the camera.
The other thing that you might want to try, which is a really good position for a week-old baby, is to lie slightly backwards and face plant your baby. So you see, I'm doing this with a doll, so I wouldn't be doing this with a real baby, but your baby is face down like a baby seal, so its hands are on each side, it's face down, it's not on its side at all, it's face down, and you plonk it literally across your breasts. You can see that, across your breast. Feet are in the armpit, and you literally plonk it on top of your nipple. So your baby's mouth is on top of the nipple, its hands are on either side of the breast that it's going on, and it can breathe usually perfectly fine, and you plonk your baby on top of the nipple. We call it face planting, and then you can bring your hand round and your baby will go on the breast like that. It doesn't require a lot of skill from either the baby or the mum. So that is a really good position to get a few millimetres deeper on the breast. Have a go and see if that helps. It's a really good way of learning to breastfeed for both of you, and it does support your shoulders as well. So try that one, but don't roll your baby out at all while you're doing it. It literally has got to be face planting. You've got to have it face down, and that will make it work. So have a go and see if that helps you.
Right, moving on. So Charlotte's come back and told us about Alicia, because we've been following Alicia's progress while we've been doing these sessions, because Charlotte's messaged nearly every session, which is lovely. And she's now 7 months old. She stopped feeding, so you've obviously met her needs. Well done, Charlotte. And she's now eating loads of stage 2 foods, and she's drinking bottled milk, water and baby juice, and she's growing lots. And Alicia apparently sends hi to both of us and wishes a very Christmas. And we wish you a very first fabulous Christmas, Charlotte and Alicia. And lovely to have that first Christmas with your baby, and all those of you out there who've had their babies and about to have your babies. It is hard work, but absolutely fantastic having that first family Christmas.
Totally.
Samantha's come on and said, hi, my baby's 9 days old and seems to be cluster feeding in the night and sleepy in the day. Is there anything I can do to help adjust the routine? I've been told I have a good attachment and alternate breasts and offer the second breast at every feed. I'm afraid you've got a 9-day-old baby, and
they like to feed all night.
They just don't know yet the difference between night and day. And I used to have a mentor, very good friend, in fact, more than a mentor, Sue from Abingdon Baby Cafe, and she would always say that, you know, it's normal for babies to feed at night, and it is normal for babies to feed at night. If you think about it, if you go back to our ancestors, it's really, if that would be the time the babies would be safe, because mothers and babies would be all cooped up somewhere safe, not out foraging in the day. So actually it is really normal, and they really don't get night and day for probably up to 6 weeks. It gets better incrementally, slowly, but it's normal at this point in time for babies to be awake at night and asleep in the day. And you were saying yesterday, weren't you, Naomi, to a couple of mothers who are expecting, that actually it's this point in time where you really need to try and sleep in the day if you can, even if it's just to rest. You know, even if you just
learn to sleep in the daytime.
Close your eyes. If you really can't sleep, just rest, because you will be kept up at night, and that is absolutely normal. And all babies will do it.
And if if you've got a partner at home, then take it in turns.
Yeah.
You know, if your baby's been fed, go upstairs, take your clothes off, take your knickers off, close the curtains. You know, put your pajamas on, and tuck yourself in. Turn your phone off, and go to sleep. Put earplugs in, because your baby's fed, and somebody's looking after it, and you've got nothing to listen out for. Your baby is okay, and then you can swap over. You know, your partner can then go and have 2 hours of sleep, and you will be fine. Your baby will be fine, but you won't be fine if you try and do day and night duty for weeks at a time. You will end up in such a pickle, and miserable. So train yourself from a very early age to sleep in the daytime, and most people say, I can't sleep in the daytime, but you have to. You can't not sleep in the day. So take your clothes off, get into bed, and just shut the door and just take the world away, because you will go to sleep. You're exhausted. You will go to sleep.
And it's amazing how just 1 hour or 2 hours at this stage, you'll feel like a different person. So it's so well worth it.
And you might need to do that twice in a day to get you through the night. You might need to do it, and that's okay. Go back to bed in the morning, and then go back to bed in the afternoon. Go to sleep at about 4 o'clock, and then you're feeling a bit fresher for that busy time in the evenings when they cluster feed.
Good luck with it, because we know it's really tough. But you're with many, and this is where, if you were able to go out and meet other mums, they would all be telling you the same, that they're having exactly the same situation, Samantha.
And there will always be somebody telling you their baby goes for 8 hours at night, and that's not normal.
Yeah, it isn't. They're very unnormal, very unusual. So good luck, Samantha. I hope tonight's slightly better for you, but just bear in mind, when you are up with your baby, it's a very normal situation. It will get better. We promise it will get better. Rita's come back to say he's fine, lots of dirty nappies and urine, also feeds loads of times and then vomits every time. He seems quite anxious at the beginning of the feed. They are, because they want to get on. They're all frantic when they get started.
0 to 60.
Yeah, and then they go on and they go, and you can watch a baby's hand. They go on like this, and you literally watch the baby as they start to get the milk, and you watch those hands unfurl as they relax, and it's so lovely to see. But it's very normal, so well done you. It sounds like you're doing a great job.
It's hard work, isn't it? Being a mum is hard work in the first month, really hard.
So Kimberly's come back about the poo. She said that it's sand-like grains in the usual runny yellow poo. It's not solid. Okay.
Sounds okay to me.
Yeah, because we do expect poo to have like little kernels in it. So we talk about whole grain mustard. We do expect it to have little bits in it. So whether it's that or not, might be worth sending a picture to somebody just to have a quick peek. But you know, if everything else is fine, probably okay.
Talk to your health visitor.
Oh, and I've just seen Nicola's come back and said her baby's 9 days today, so hopefully near its birth weight soon then, Nicola. Good luck with that. Kimberly's come back again. Yes, normal wet nappies. I don't feel like milk supply has changed, and no changes to contraception or anything. It's possible that his older brother has secretly fed him something, and he started being more
Playmobil.
Yeah, hopefully not. Being more wiggly and distracted when feeding. That's really common.
Yeah.
I should have said it was sandy grains in his runny poo, not solid. I'll keep an eye on his attachment and make sure he's getting a proper feed, even if he's mostly thinking about the TV. Thank you.
I know it's your sanity, isn't it, when you breastfeed? It's company in the house with you, isn't it? Adult company. You might have to turn it off while you're feeding for a bit.
Subtitles. Rita's come back. I've tried that every feed, and sometimes he latches well, but when he does it well, it seems that he doesn't like it. It's like it's too much nipple and areola inside his mouth. Then he comes off and we start again, and it ends up very painful. Rita, as I said, your baby was only born last week. Get hold of the midwives, tell them you're struggling, ask them to come and see you. If they think you need to come and see us, they'll tell you, and they'll suggest you give us a shout. So just get the help now, Rita, because it makes such a difference, you know, not only to your experience, but to your milk supply if you get that help as early as possible.
And try that different position as well.
Yeah. Sarah's come back. Thank you both and all the teams at the JR Spas, Wantage and the Baby Cafe so much. This session has been reassuring that the things I'm doing are right, which is applying the advice I've been given by various, everything keeps skipping, various teams. It's highlighted, I think, that I need to look again at the deep latch. Yeah, the photo you showed of nose to nipple to avoid the pinching feeling. Going to show my husband that segment of the session too, so he can help adjust the latch. It's really useful having partners who know what they're doing. We're helping you.
Take a picture of you while you're feeding, so you can compare them.
You can compare it. Yeah, we'll also reach out to the health visitor team. I'm closely monitoring myself for mastitis symptoms to avoid a relapse. Feel really knowledgeable of what to look out for now as early warning signs. Now, thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you. That's brilliant. And read.
Yeah, we've got a few more minutes, I think, only.
So Sarah's come back with another thing. She said, any tips for what I call the paranama moment to help distract me? The first 30 seconds of discomfort. Oh, it is hard, isn't it? When they first latch, or is this linked to a shallow latch maybe?
I'd look at your attachment again.
Have a peek.
See if you can go to one of the baby cafes or OBS, see if they can look at the attachment again.
Yeah. And it's that sort of, it's employing those sort of deep breathing techniques as well to get through it. You know, some people have had so much damage or anything in the past, actually there is, that first 10 seconds is really painful for quite a long time. So think of those, that deep breathing, count to 10, maybe count backwards. A good distraction will always help. Knowing that it's going to get better was always helpful as well. Knowing that once you've got past that slow count to 10, that actually it will start to ease and you'll feel more comfortable. Rita's come back and said thank you, and I think that was it. We had quite a pile of questions there. I'm just going to flick up through.
We've got through loads and loads though, haven't we? Which is brilliant. Hope you found it helpful.
I'm hoping I've not missed anyone, and huge apologies to anyone I've missed.
I think we've answered quite a lot, haven't we? And we've covered quite a lot of things today, which is brilliant. And,
yeah.
You know, think about your questions, because we'll be back at the same time next week.
Yeah.
And I hope you all have a really good week. Hopefully we won't get snowed in. That makes life very complicated for everybody, doesn't it? And you know, happy breastfeeding.
Yeah. And thank you to all of you for your questions. There've been some fantastic questions. I can see all the thank yous coming up from you too. Yeah, thank you very, very much. Keep it going. Spread the word. Tell people that we're doing this, because there are lots of mums out there who think they're unsupported, and there is plenty of support out there. Make sure that you tell your friends, you know, and access things like the Oxfordshire Maternity Voices Partnership, where there's lots of lots of information as well. So
and we're really bowled over, because we don't know how many people are watching us, and because we're just looking at ourselves talking to you when we do this.
That's all we can see.
But actually we're getting up to 1,000 people watching every week, which is a lot of people.
Yeah.
So we are reaching out to lots of people that aren't necessarily in Oxford. We don't know where you are. So sometimes it's nice if you say where you are as well when you come and talk to us, and spread the word.
Anyway, thank you very much, and we'll be around next week. See you then.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.